Welcome everybody. Today I'm going to paint up the Martyr 1A2, and this is going to be a later version. So this would be in the 1980s, mid to late 1980s, when they started switching to the NATO camouflage. Now I'm going to paint up two at a time today. So two different Martyrs. One that's the first stowed Martyr, and the other one is a Martyr with a camo net. I thought these would be fun to paint up, and I'd like to show you how I paint two at a time. And this is more typical for me than just painting up one vehicle. I do a lot of gaming, and of course I'm trying to paint up a platoon or several platoons of vehicles, and it's just much more efficient to do several at one time. So I'm going to do two at a time in this video and show you my process. Speaking of process, I have several steps here that I'll go through. And the first one is that I prime the model all black in this case. I am not going to do a pre-shade like I did in the previous Martyr video. I'm going to start with an all black vehicle. This allows me to skip the pre-shading. It ultimately makes for a darker vehicle, but I really like how it turns out, especially with the NATO camouflage, and hopefully you can see that as we go along. So I prime it black. I don't show you that step. Priming is priming. Then the next thing I do is the NATO green as a base color. So I'll paint the entire thing NATO green. I'll highlight that NATO green so that it has some bright spots to it. Then I come back and I'm going to do the camo net on the one Martyr before I do any of the camouflaging. The next step, I'm going to go in and do the NATO black and do the NATO black stripes on the particular vehicle. Then I'm going to put in the NATO brown where it's supposed to go in the camouflage pattern. After that, I pick out some details, I do a pin wash, I clean up the pin wash, and then I'm done. So ultimately, there's 10 steps here. They're fairly quick. I think the one that is the longest is maybe the pin wash. But other than that, you can crank through a couple of Martyrs fairly quickly to get them on your game table. So let's get started. My first step is doing the base green color. And even though I'm doing two Martyrs at the same time, I really paint them one at a time. I'm using the Ammo of MiG color NATO green. It comes in this NATO color set, so you get the green, the brown, and the black. It's a great set. It's exactly what I'm using in this video. I just put the paint in the cup, add a little bit of thinner, mix it up, and then start spraying. Now, with the black base, I am not going to cover the entire model. I'm not spraying it like I would spray a primer. I'm going to go in fairly slowly and just paint the large sections and then work myself into the details. My goal here is to leave a lot of the black, right? I want the black in the spaces where I would appreciate it, right? Anywhere you think that you need some darkness, I leave that black. So watch the process here as I do some painting, putting the base green down. Now next, I'm going to paint the camo netting on the one Martyr. I thought I would just do this real quick, get it out of the way, even before I did the green highlights. So I'm switching a couple steps in the middle of it because I thought this would be more effective, and I could clean up around the lines of the camo net with the highlight green. So let's see how it goes. Now that the camo net is done, and I thought it turned out pretty well, it's time to do the green highlights. You'll notice in the couple sections where the net shows some holes where you can see the hull, I have to paint those green again, and that's why I left the highlight stage till now. And so I'm going to do the highlighting, painting those areas, getting them cleaned up. I will add a little bit of yellow to my NATO green to brighten it up, to do the highlighting, the flat panels, the hatches, the top of the gun, anywhere I think that the sun would really be shining and changing the color dynamic of the color. All right, let's see how it goes. Okay, now you can see the results of the highlighting of the green. I fixed the green spot in the camo netting. It's a little brighter on top. You can see, hopefully in this picture, a lot of the darkness I left, right? A lot of that shading. And again, I am trying to give these models, anytime I paint really a vehicle, some depth to it, right? Some change in the paint. It's just not one solid color. Trying to make a lot of deviation to it. But now I'm going to paint the camo scheme. I'm going to do the black first, right? Everything's green, so I'm going to do the black stripes first because they're the most. And then the brown will fit into the black stripes. I do have a reference. You can probably see here on my desk. I have a reference of the painting scheme, so I try to follow that as closely as possible. I will tell you that it is a little bit of a challenge to paint camo exactly where it's supposed to go according to, a template. So I do my best, but I'm not overthinking it. I am not going to really stress about it. I'm just going to get it done. And it's going to be what it is in the end. And hopefully it'll come out nice enough that on the table, it'll look good. Okay, at this point, the black stripes are done and it turned out pretty well. So I'm going to get out my NATO brown, and with my trusty paint guide next to me here, I am going to paint in the brown areas. The good news is because the black's there, the brown is almost automatic. It's a lot easier to figure out where the brown goes once you have the black stripes. Now, hopefully, you can see how having two vehicles, I knock out one, knock out the other. Once the paint's in the airbrush, once I have it going, once the colors are out there, it's a lot easier just to do them one after the next. So you'll see that in the brown step here. I'm going to hit the areas that need the brown, do both vehicles, and then get ready to do the details. All right, you can see here how the brown and the NATO camouflage really pulled it together. That light brown really makes it look nice. The dark green and the black is fine, but it doesn't really come together till that light brown gets in there. Okay, in this stage, I'm going to paint details. This is any bags or tarps or camo netting on the vehicle. This includes the gun, the tools, anything that I can pull out of the vehicle itself that's different than the base green color. What I like about these two models are these are from the unstowed versions or stowed versions of the Marder. The original one I painted is the unstowed version, which is just the plain vehicle. But the stowed versions give you nice variety. The camo net's a great example, but on this one you can see that there's extra packs and tarps that allow you to paint them in a different color than the base green. This makes the vehicle stand out, gives it some visual interest to it. So I really like these stowed versions. I'll get these painted up and then we'll be ready to do the pen wash. The details have been painted up, but I decided to go back over the camo net one and do some highlights and some variations on the camo net. And so that's what you see here is me going through the camo net. I also want to make a quick comment about the Milan missile launcher. It's another piece on the model that's great to differentiate from the other pieces color-wise. The launching tube would have been a different green color than the typical NATO green. And that's just because it's a different material. It wasn't painted at the same time the tank was. And so you can pick really any kind of green that fits the situation, an olive drab or a lighter green, and paint the missile tube different color. Again, it's just another detail that stands out from the rest of the plain green of the vehicle. Okay, so all the detail painting has been done. It's now time for the pin wash. And for the pin wash, I'm using a wash out of the NATO weathering set. Ammo of MiG makes a NATO weathering set, and in there comes a pin wash. This pin wash is black. I usually use a brown pin wash. This is the first time using this black one, but I'm going to use the black one because they said to use the black one. And so I'm going to give it a shot here. The pin wash, if you've seen any of my other videos, is one of the more tedious stages that I do. It's not my favorite, but I think it really makes a difference on the model. So I take the pin wash straight from the bottle and I dab it in any area that I need to bring out the details. This is anything that sticks out of the hull. So these are the hatches, any strap hangers, any of the grates, handles, the anything that sticks out, I will pin wash it. And I will just touch it gently with a brush loaded with full of the pin wash. And then after this stage, I'll let it dry. And I'll let it dry for about 30 minutes. And in the next step, you'll see I come back and do a pin wash cleanup. Okay, so now that the pin wash is done, I'm going to do a little cleanup. As I said before, I let it dry for about 30 minutes, and then I'm going to come back and put a little enamel thinner on my brush just to make it damp, not wet. And then I am going to clean up anywhere that I think that there's too much wash, or that it has stained the model somewhere, or doesn't look good, or just needs to be cleaned up. I can clean it up here in this stage with the enamel thinner. I really like this ability where you can be a little sloppy with your pin wash, but come back and clean it up. Once I've done this, I'm pretty much done with the model. The only thing I'm going to do after this is to put down a matte varnish. And that matte varnish really knocks down the glossy sheen of some of the layers I've done here. And then the model will be ready to be put on the table. You know, I'll mention that I haven't weathered this yet, and I don't weather a lot of my models if I'm gaming with them. If I'm gaming with them, I bring them up to this standard here, and then I go play. But once in a while, I'll take some time and weather the model by putting some mud on it or some dust or stuff like that. And I might do that to these two in a follow-up video. And here's how the model turns out in the end. I thought it turned out fairly well. The NATO camouflage is a little subdued, which I really like. I like starting from the black base, making the entire model kind of dark and gritty. It really turned out nice. Hopefully you feel the same about it in a fairly quick and easy process where I did two vehicles at once. Well, thanks for watching, and if you liked this, please like the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't forget about the Bob Mac Kickstarter. You can find the link on bobmac3d.com. And again, thanks everybody for watching.